Roses are red, violets are blue. WWE Vengeance Day is this Saturday, so you know what we're here to do. It's predictions time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us once again. Myself in house with the one and only Mr. NX Steve below me, and to I believe my right, if you consider the way you're looking on the screen there. Joining us from OTM is the one, Mr. and the only Mr. OTM, Too Sweet Kyle in the house. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we're going to dive in straight off out going into the match card because I want to know excitement levels for the show. Kyle, as our special guest today, between 1 and 10, how excited are you for this show?
Yeah, first of all, thanks again for having me on, Steve. I've always talked about, getting together with NX Steve, so it's a pleasure to do a show with him as well. But my excitement levels probably at like a 9 out of 10, especially after you just went down the card a little bit for the first time since I didn't know what the card was. I'm at a 9 out of 10 now. I think it's going to be a really solid show this Saturday.
Super indeed there. NX Steve, do you share that excitement?
I'm going to actually go one up and I'll say 10. I think NXT has been the best show consistently week in, week out. And the fact that we've got 6 matches and it's a super stacked card. And, dude, it's just going to be fun. And, yeah, man, I just can't wait for it, really.
I feel like a Debbie Downer. I'm only an 8.
Oh.
You suck.
I tell you what,
isn't bad.
It's not bad, though. That shows the levels of this show. It is stacked from top to bottom. Let's go through this match card quickly for those that are not aware of it. And you can also see the match order we're going to go with as well. We will be kicking off with the NXT Championship over Femi, defending against A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller in a triple threat match. We have the NXT Women's North American Championship on the line. Fallon Henley going against Stephanie Vaquer. We've got Trick Willams versus Eddy Thorpe in a strap match. We have an unsanctioned match. Javon Evans going against Ethan Page. For the NXT Tag Team Champions, we've got Fraxiom versus Briggs and Inamura. I hope I've said that correctly. And last but not least, we have got Giulia versus Bayley versus Cora, Jade versus Roxanne, Perez. Fatal 4-way for the NXT Women's Championship. Plus, who are these 4 gentlemen? We will be discussing the mystery faction. And if you are wondering as well about Ricky Starks, yes, to finish off the video, we will be giving our reaction to his debut as well. Gentlemen, going through that match card then means only one question I've left to ask you. And Carl, I'll go to you first. Which match are you most looking forward to on this show?
I think the layup slam dunk answer is saying that women's match because there's a lot of talent in that fatal 4-way. But for me, it's Ethan Page versus Javon Evans. I have loved the story between these two ever since Ethan Page, made his way over to NXT. I think he's absolutely killed everything that he has done. So I think those two are definitely going to deliver here at Vengeance Day. So that's the match that I'm most looking forward to.
Nice. And Steve?
Dude, the fatal 4-way is the correct answer, but I'm just going to say Obafemi versus A-Town Down Under just because I want to see Obafemi absolutely destroy the pair of them.
Feels like a right answer in itself there. Look, I'm going NBA All-Stars for it. I know that's the week for it this week. So, yeah, I'm going with the 4-way for the women for the NXT Women's Championship. It just feels different generations of NXT in one match. Will we get the current champion retaining, or will we get sort of the old guard, the new guard? What's it going to be with NXT moving forward? It's exciting as we go towards Stand and Deliver season. Feel free to get your comments as well in there. Let us know what you think. And Roy has already got a nice and early ask us our thoughts about Ricky Starks. We will be getting onto that later in the video. That'll be our main event segment portion today. So without further ado, I think what we should do is we should dive straight in with our first match. So without further ado, it will be Femi defending the NXT Championship against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Arguably 2 men from the main roster who have never won the NXT Championship have come back to NXT to cut the line, basically. That's pretty much what's going on here. Obafemi was invited onto the Grayson Waller effect, ended up being where they ended up becoming #1 contenders for the championship to the dismay of Trick Willams. He's not too happy about the situation. Trick's then cost himself a couple of matches, which is really taking himself out of the picture. And Obafemi has decided that the best way to go about this is to tease a breakup for Theory and Waller, trying to pit them against each other. It seemed like it was working for a very short time in NXT this past week. However, towards the end of that segment, Waller and Theory were still on the same page, and it turned out that Femi was the one laying on his back. NXT, your thoughts of the build?
Dude, For what it is, I think this is a really good match to have Obafemi come out looking super strong. Like early prediction answer, Obafemi's retaining. It's the easiest answer you're going to probably get all night out of me. I don't see a lot of talent in that main event scene at the minute that can sit there and honestly be a really good contender for Obafemi. And I feel like this is really just a placement match. It's just more of a showcase. So hopefully Grayson Waller and Austin Theory can get some of this stuff in. Come out not looking too bad, but the problem is it is a triple threat and not a 2-on-1, so I suppose you're going to get that confrontation at some point. But dude, man, Obafemi's going to absolutely destroy the pair of them, and he's going to retain this for me. But yeah, it's a simple one that I just don't see anyone at this minute for a pay-per-view who's there to take that NXT title off of Obafemi. So for me, it's just a good sort of place card match for him at the minute.
Yeah, seems a very sensible way to put that. There's a reason we put this match first. Too Sweet Kyle.
Yeah, no, the writing's on the wall with this one. I think we all are assuming that Obafemi is going to retain. That's my pick, and I'm sure it's everybody else's. But I think the story here is really about Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Can that pair survive this match? And I don't think that they can. I mean, I think the writing is on the wall with this feud as well, because, I mean, the last couple times we've seen A-Town Down Under do their talking segments, they've kind of hinted towards the fact that Austin Theory could turn face very soon. And I think that's something a lot of us would like to see. So even though this match is predictable, like NXT said, I think there is a lot of fun spots that can be had here. We know what Obafemi is capable of. And I'm just more interested to see the fallout here between Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And this is a good stopgap match because I think we can all assume that Trick Williams is probably going to make his way back into the major title scene for WrestleMania weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. Stand and deliver. It's the biggest match they can do in NXT, so why throw it away on Vengeance Day when you can do it on WrestleMania weekend? Completely agree. Obafemi retaining all day long. I think Austin Theory pretty much mapped the match out for us this past Tuesday. He said, we're going to beat him down. We're going to get Obafemi probably covered with chairs and probably a table as well, the announcer's table covering him. And then we're going to decide who's going to get the job done. I think probably be settled at a moment when one of them really has got the pinfall fixed and then the other one realizes, hang on, we can't let our teammate actually get the pinfall victory, and it is going to break down in the match. And like you say, the psychological damage long term is going to be fascinating for Fury and Waller, because is it going to lead to a match for them two at WrestleMania? Is it going to be a match where they try and win the World Tag Team titles at WrestleMania but fail, then they break up? This is going to be the first major, like we've had the teasers, it feels like, for nearly 12 months about these two breaking up, but this is going to be the first major, I want to say, nail in that coffin where this team they're on borrowed time. It's not if they break up, it's when they're going to break up. And obviously Obafemi is going to be the difference because he is the ruler of NXT, and neither of those two, however, wherever they come from NXT, they're not taking that title from Oba at this period moving forward.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think that I said this a couple of months ago that my biggest fear is that if these two do end up separating, you're going to lose one of them somewhere in the shuffle, and that's the problem you're going to have. Grayson Waller obviously has his TV segment, so he kind of like has a reason to be on TV, or a reason for them to use him in segments. I feel like if they break these two up, I'm just really worried about where Austin Theory's direction goes, because obviously we know about his history and him failing to cash in the Money in the Bank contract. It's just like, hopefully, like, he doesn't end up in catering for 6 months and just not doing anything. So that's the biggest worry I have. But you know what I mean? The guys are still two really good wrestlers, so hopefully there's still something for them if they do decide to break them up.
Hopefully,
yeah. Kind of going off of what you were saying there too, I like what they had to say in that promo segment on NXT this week, that a lot of people don't talk about the fact that Grayson Waller truly was a pillar of the NXT 2.0 era. Of course, you're going to talk about Tony D'Angelo, Braun Breaker, and Carmelo Hayes, and you can even throw Trick Williams' name into the mix. Grayson Waller was a pivotal part of NXT. So that is something I worry about too, NXT, is the fact that once these two do split up, somebody's going to get lost in the shuffle. It's just how things work. They have a very loaded roster right now, especially on the main, to where, yeah, I think that's a fair criticism from NXT.
Yeah, I think it's a fair criticism. I think for me, though, these two need to change of direction. I think they've done, it's kind of like I don't say a stale tag team, because obviously they've made it work for over a year, but I just believe, in my head, Waller I think he'll be fine. He has the talk show. Miz has been moved to SmackDown, so it fits this idea of a suppose, a younger generation. Dare I say that word? It makes me sound old every time I say it, but he fits that demographic. Having the Grayson Warrior effect on Monday Night Raws and stuff. So I think he'll be fine in finding his TV time. Theory is the one I would worry about. However, there's such a lot of talent amongst Austin Theory, and I do feel that he just needs a change of direction. Period. I think he's been stuck in a bit of a flunk for about 2 to 3 years now, and I think that he just needs something just to get him going again, because he's still trusted in big moments. He was the person trusted when The Rock made a comeback a couple of years ago. He's put in big moments, big segments. He's trusted to be chokeslammed by celebrities. So it's like he is someone that I think
WWE cages.
Exactly, WWE has trust in this
Corbin.
guy. Yeah, so
Not a bad thing.
No, not at all. So I think he will be fine, but it's just finding a thing that's going to make him connect. And I think that's been Austin Theory's thing. He hasn't connected with an audience for quite a while, even though all the tools for a megastar is there. So it'd be interesting to see what's going to be the fallout. But we've all gone for Femi to retain in this match. Let's go into the comments, see what everyone has got to say. Sid is saying here for us that hopes Femi loses. Not a fan of him, won't be watching the match. Interesting. Not a fan of Femi. We're mega high on Femi on this podcast. So, we'd like to know your reasons and who you want to win.
Telling you now, that guy could easily walk into the Rumble next year. Stays in NXT for the rest of the year. He walks into the Rumble next year and wins the Rumble and goes to the main event WrestleMania. He could easily do that.
He's a for sure thing. He's a superstar.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I'm shocked with that comment, Sid, to be honest. But, hey, each to their own is what we're also saying.
True that.
Will we see Jordan Grace show up at Vengeance Day?
They might do the sitting in the crowd thing like they normally do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I don't see where she fits on that card. Unless it's after the match.
It's possible after a match, maybe. But I agree, maybe. Bring back in the audience thing. I like that. We used to get that all the time at NXT takeovers, and it used to always feel like a big deal, and it's like, they're going to be here kind of thing. The last person we saw with that was Giulia, I believe, at Stand and Deliver last year. So, yeah, I think they should definitely do that for Jordan Grace. That could be quite fun to see. Let's go into match number 2. In the meantime, this one might not take very long. NXT Women's North American Championship, Fallon Henley versus Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer, of course, won the number 1 contendership the same night that Shotzi had pinned the champion. So in the end, we had to have Shotzi versus Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer won that match. She's had to be patient to get this championship opportunity, but will she win the title here? Could be a short and sweet yes or no answer, but before we do get there, NXT, I'll start with you. Have you enjoyed Fallon Henley's run as NXT Women's North American Champion?
If anything, I think it's probably been the most underwhelming run as any of the champions on NXT. Like, I feel like she's been winning for the sake of having a faction to back her up, and I haven't really seen her do much on telly otherwise, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if this has been the smartest move, but look, props to it. They gave her the championship, and she's run with it. But I've not been the biggest fan of her run, if I'm honest. Like, I think they could have done more.
Yeah, I kind of agree with this. I know she has had a couple of successful title defenses, but and I'm actually a big fan of Fallon Henley, but I just don't feel like they've portrayed her in the strongest way as being champion, which I think makes this prediction very easy for me in a couple of moments. But Kyle, I'll go to you first.
Well, you're asking the wrong guy, because if there's 1,000 fans of Fallon Henley, I'm one of them. If there's 1 million fans of Fallon Henley, I'm one of them. But if there's one, I'm the only one that is rooting for Fallon Henley, because I ride or die with that woman. But still, I do see your criticism with her title reign, but I also think she is that perfect person to catapult the next champion, which is going to be Stephanie. I think that was the writing was on the wall with that as well, that Stephanie would be the next in line to become the North American champion. And I think you needed somebody like Fallon, who is backed up by her heel stablemates, to get that kind of reaction. So everybody wants to see her lose that title. And I think in that aspect, Fallon Henley has done a good job with that title. But I could see the critique with the matches and such. It's been a little underwhelming, but I'm still a fan.
Do you know what? It makes a good point now, because sometimes, even in the role of transitional champion, as I'm going to start with the predictions, Stephanie Vaquer to become the new champ here, you have to play your role correctly. You have to win the title. You have to get yourself in place and in line to put over the next person. Stephanie Vaquer, I mean, herself looks amazing. Looks like she's going to be a megastar in WWE, in my personal opinion. But still, to be the right person to put her over in a championship loss and pass the title over is an important role, and that can't be denied. And perhaps Henley would be the right person for that.
Yeah, and I think that we can all probably agree that Stephanie's going to win.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to say Stephanie wins as well, but I wouldn't be shocked if Fallon retains this. Like, if you really want a shock and awe moment, having her beat Stephanie Vaquer is a really big deal. But I think Stephanie Vaquer shouldn't even be in this scene. Stephanie Vaquer should be in that main event scene. I think that she's too good for the North American Championship. Like, she's come in such short time, has made herself one of the biggest names in NXT, that it feels like she's in the wrong place on the card. But my prediction is still going to be Stephanie Vaquer. But I wouldn't be shocked if Fallon Henley retained.
Before we went on air, we did say there could be 1 or 2 shocks on this show. And to be honest with you, NXT, I do think this has potential to be one of those shocks in a way, just because, like you said there, if there was one moment on NXT that just made me question it slightly, was Stephanie Vaquer and Giulia backstage was, well, once I'm done with this scene, there's only one place left to go, and that's after you, Giulia. And it's like, are we putting that seed in for something that's long term, or are we putting it something short term? Even if she doesn't get the job done here, but she's still going to go for Giulia next. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, we mentioned here with Mr. Sims UK here about the idea of Jordan Grace showing up. That could be the automatic match you could do also with whoever the champion is moving forward. But I mean, like, a bit of me feels that Stephanie Vaquer could be someone that could be going after the top title. It's almost like you see her, Zarya, Grace, Giulia have all come in at the same time. You can only push one champion per time. And at this meantime, Giulia's the one they've put the stock in. She's the one that's holding the golds. It's kind of like, that's why I feel Vaquer may just have a run with this Women's North American Championship at this present time.
Yeah, I think that they want to keep her.
No,
go on.
ahead.
I was just going to say, it's the way to keep Giulia and Stephanie Vaquer apart for the time being, that one of them runs with that North American Championship, one of them runs with the Women's Championship. And yeah, it's probably the most sound bet that they do it, just to keep these two apart for the longest distance. But I'd like to see Giulia and Vaquer have like a Ciampa Gargano series of matches. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be back to that black and gold days where those two had like one of the best rivalries in pro wrestling. And I reckon they could do the same with these two.
It's really good.
Yeah, and to the points that you guys were making, I could totally see just Jordan Grace. You talk about the fact that Stephanie is probably too big for this title scene. Well, like what Steve was saying, there's a lot of people already in the major title scene with Giulia, Cora, Jade, and Roxanne, that maybe Jordan Grace inserts herself right into this North American title scene, and she's the one to face Stephanie Vaquer at Stand and Deliver. Because if your two big matches have Giulia as the NXT champion, and then you have Stephanie versus Jordan Grace as your other women's match on WrestleMania weekend, that's some major stuff right there, and massive. I would love to see that.
Would indeed. That would be a really good shout to see all that to happen there. And well, we've all gone for Stephanie Vaquer to pick up the gold, but let us know your predictions in the comments. And we've got a few other comments that have come flying in. It's a good time actually to say to everyone, by the way, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share with a friend, subscribe as well. All that good stuff really helps. We've got the highest number of viewership at the moment. We can try and make those numbers rise even further with your interaction. It just takes a couple of seconds and it really helps the video a lot. We got here Miss NXT when it was 1 hour, black and gold days. So a couple of mentions of black and gold in the last couple of minutes there. NXT making a mention a couple of moments ago. Ray actually is disappointed Chase U broke up, Duke Hudson being released, and wants to see Thea Howell on TV more. Favorite NXT women's wrestler. Would be nice to see more Thea Howell on TV. She's not been around for a little while.
Agreed.
Yeah, where does she fit, though, now that there's no Chase U? That's what worries me.
When they repackaged her with JC Jane and she came out in the black gear instead of like the high school stuff, I was like, oh, this is a real refresh look to her, and like hopefully they do something like that. But again, there's so much talent on that card at the minute. Right. It's right. Where does she go? And even if you don't mention like the obvious names, you've still got the likes of Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan, Lash Legend, who are pushing towards that upper card scene for the women's division. And it's like, where does Thea Hell fit in at the minute? It's really hard to get a spot.
And not even mention Sol Ruka. I mean, it truly is the best women's division in wrestling. It's not just a catchphrase to say every Tuesday. It is stacked from top to bottom. And if you can make it in that division, you've got a good chance of making it on Raw and SmackDown as well, because it's that stacked in NXT at this present time. Alan Ford saying in the house is a lot of ice may cost Vaquer the title because of the segment in the parking lot, because Lola gave her a strange look. Interesting. I'll keep an eye out for that one.
You
That would
can't
also
trust
be
the parking lot. You got to pay attention when they're in the parking lot. So Alan might be on to something.
The fact that they've added the NXT parking lot to the new video game as a backstage area just proves a point. It is one of the most dangerous places in professional wrestling.
Absolutely, it certainly is indeed. Sid asking the question, would you like to see NXT versus TNA match at WrestleMania? For me, no. Stand and deliver, yes. Kyle?
Worlds collide.
Or just
Worlds
do
collide next.
Yeah.
Worlds collide next January at the Rumble.
Yeah, to be fair, that is the perfect answer. We need that show at some point here. And we have a new viewer. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. This is want Giulia to retain the NXT Women's Championship title, Stephanie Baquer to become the Women's North American Champion, and Femi to retain. Well, so far, we've done 2 of those matches, and we agree with 2 of them. So we'll see if Giulia is going to retain later in the show. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Let's go into our third match that we're going to talk about today then, and we're going to be going into a strap match. Good old-fashioned stipulation, this one. Trick Williams versus Eddy Thorpe, and pretty much stemmed through Eddy Thorpe just beating Trick Williams of a strap, really. But these two have been going at it, really, since the end of last year. Trick Williams was the champion at the time, of course, and Eddy Thorpe had pushed himself into the title scene. Couldn't get the job done, but at one point it was a double pinfall with the two in action. So it feels like this match is kind of needed just to close off the feud, because these two have been going at it for a number of weeks. But interesting choice of stipulation. And Kyle, will come to you first. Your thoughts of Trick Williams versus Eddy Thorpe. Are you into this feud?
I'm not, and that has to do with the fact that I just have never been, a fan of Eddy Thorpe's, and I appreciate the time and effort that they have put into kind of repackaging him and presenting him as a guy in NXT, but to me, I don't think he's got the tools to be a guy to, hang with the level of a Trick Williams. So the strap match makes sense. There's been a lot of physicality, like you mentioned, between these two over the past couple months, but man, I think Trick Williams just needs to take care of business here, and let's just move on, because Trick needs to get back into that main event title scene for sure.
Absolutely. And Steve?
I mean, the idea of a strap match alone, it's not my favorite match in pro wrestling, because I think it's clunky. If you don't know what you're doing with that strap, you can end up spending half of your life just trying to untangle yourself from the ropes with it, because it's so messy. But in terms of the match itself, the problem I have is obviously stand delivery is coming up on Mania weekend, and where do you see Eddy Thorpe going? Obviously, Trick Williams, you can kind of see him go more towards the main event scene. What's Eddy Thorpe going to do? Like, I find it kind of strange, like, of all the NXT UK roster, Eddy Thorpe is one of the few to survive and still be on the roster, which means they've got to think something about him. So hopefully, this ain't the end all and be all of Eddy Thorpe, but I mean, it's all about Trick Williams get to that main event scene. I mean, he's getting a call up after Mania 100%, but I think it's just a case of having Trick Williams go out on a high. This almost feels like this match should be at Stand and Deliver, so then that way he's got his blowout to then go up to the main roster.
Yeah, I see your point of view with that one there. For me, it's just a case of that. I look at this feud and feel it's a placeholder. We mentioned earlier on about Femi's match being a placeholder earlier in the show, and I kind of feel the same with this one. It's good to kind of get a conclusion with the rivalry of these two, but I do kind of slide into where Carl was thinking. I'm not completely buying into Eddy Thorpe, but I am enjoying his work more. Now I'm seeing with this sort of heel run, I think it's been better. I like the fact that he's sort of used cheap tactics to get himself further ahead. However, I don't think it's going to get him far enough of where he wants to go, and I don't think he's at the level where he is going to get there at this present sort of time. So I think Trick Williams will pick up the victory here, and I think it will set things up nicely for Trick versus Femi at Stand and Deliver. That's the biggest match NXT can do, and I agree with you. Trick Williams will then be sent off into the sunset and probably sent off to SmackDown at present, if I had to make a prediction on that.
I mean, the only other thing I think they could do if they didn't want to put Trick in that main event scene is essentially a loser leaves NXT kind of scenario. It's not very rare we get them, but if they wanted to extend this feud to Stand and Deliver, and just so you don't have Trick Williams in the main event scene against Femi, do you know what I mean? So, like I said, there's not exactly they haven't got a lot of talent for that main event scene at the minute, and whether they can do it in sort of the next, what are we in? We're in February, so next 2 months, 3 months before we get to WrestleMania. It's whether they can build someone to fill a spot that Trick Williams could easily do. So who knows? But like I said, after what happens with this one, I just wonder what Eddie Thorpe will end up doing. And is he going to be able to recover in terms of character and story and get himself back to that main event soon?
I hope
I
for
don't even
him.
know what his character is right now. You know, he like started out as a DJ. Now he's just a guy that hates on everybody that's involved in the NXT title scene. Like, I don't know what you are. And that's the problem with me is I need something to attach myself emotionally to wrestlers. And there's nothing about Eddie Thorpe that makes me say, I want that guy to succeed. I don't know him outside of the business, but I'm sure he's a great guy. Just on television, not doing it for me whatsoever.
When they did the whole that he attacked himself backstage to essentially get himself a title shot without having to do the match, I thought, wow, great, really creative spot. And then they've kind of not played off that since, and it's kind of just been disgruntled wrestler that hasn't won the title.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much disgruntled wrestler. I would agree with that. I mean, the thing is to use these sort of underhanded tactics to try and move himself forward away from like everything he was supposed to represent, like obviously being Native American, I think is the heritage he has, and obviously then he's not, like you say, DJ. He's not really much in the character as what itself, you know. What can you do with that? Apart from having a few with Lexus King, that's pretty much all they had.
That's all I think of, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can remember. But now, obviously, to see someone that's willing to sort of cut corners because you can't do things the right way, so you look to do things the wrong way. Look, we've seen characters like that over the years, but I think we just need to dive into it further. I don't think it's the end of Eddie Thorpe, but I think he would need to go back to the drawing board for me. Not that I think he would get that opportunity next, because obviously Tony D'Angelo looks like he's got a feud going on with Sean Spears right now, but I think Eddie Thorpe would be ready for a North American Championship picture rather than the NXT Championship picture. That's my personal levels of where I'd have him there, because that's where you can then find a way to develop the character further. Because if this guy's desperate to get hold of a championship, what would he then do to be willing to keep the championship? And I think that could be something that you can play on, build off even further off. And then when he loses that title, maybe then we might have more connection to him, and we might be able to find a way to see him get into the NXT Championship picture.
Yeah, very possible. I mean, they've got to do something with him, but like you said, with the how NXT ended this week and the story that they're building with those 8 people, it's kind of like, again, where does he fit in? And it's kind of like, he almost feels like he's going to maybe take some time off, or just like not be on TV for the foreseeable future. Once Stand and Deliver, well, that's ages away. I don't know, like, you still want to see him on TV, and I don't really want him going 2 months till Stand and Deliver, and then he comes back on TV and still tries to gain some sort of momentum.
Yeah, I do have a question for you guys too in regards to Trick Williams. I have, my second thoughts on this. Like, where does he fit currently into the main roster? Because we've talked about it before. The main roster is pretty crowded. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Does he fit anywhere on either show right now? I don't see it, personally.
SmackDown for me. 3-hour show, lacking star power. I think it's lacking a lot of crowd interaction. I think there's too many matches and segments that don't get a crowd buzzing. And I think Trick, just from his entrance alone, can get that. And I feel that he's got a natural feud to begin with Carmelo Hayes, which, again, I know we've been and done it at NXT, but still that's something you can work with them on SmackDown. I think he fits in easily into the United States Championship picture if they wanted to present him that way quick enough. But that's where I personally would put him if I was to call him up. I think on Raw, I think he would get lost in the shuffle currently. I think Bron Breakker's killing the mid-card scene over there. And of course, I mean, the star power in the main event picture is a different level. So yeah, I think SmackDown would be the right place for him.
My only argument is I'd actually put him, depending on where Jey Uso ends up at, basically, whatever show Jay's on, he goes on the opposite. So if Jey ends up on SmackDown, I would put Trick on Raw, because the fact these two guys have got massive entrances that the crowd interact with, and it's it's got Jey over massively, and it gets Trick over every time he comes out. This is why they should have had him in the Rumble, because you'd have got your initial reaction to how a mainstream audience takes Trick Williams, and because he's not in the Rumble, you don't know. So now you have to go off of a hope and a prayer that when he makes his debut on main roster, the crowd gets him and they get his entrance. If he'd have been in the Rumble, he'd already be over by the time he comes on the main roster. But yeah, my answer would simply be whatever show Jay is on, the opposite one, because then you've got two guys with killer entrances. And yeah, he could easily be an upper mid-carder, like straight off the bat as soon as he joins the main roster.
I like those answers. Thanks for giving them to me. Appreciate it.
No worries at all. Let's go into the comments in the meantime then. But if I'm correct in thinking, we've all gone Trick Willams here.
Correct.
Yes.
We're going for whoop that trick then. Brilliant. Sid says he'd like to see Fairhouse go to TNA to give him more TV time. Not a bad shout in the meantime.
Yeah, why not?
We'll be quite down for that one there. We'll go into our next match in a couple of moments' time. In fact, we actually going to have to do one I know that Two-Spit Carl was looking forward to the most. Javon Evans, Ethan Page, unsanctioned is the match that we are going to be discussing next then. So, Mr. OTM, the floor is yours. Tell us everything about Javon Evans and Ethan Page. And to be honest, I just love the fact that Sean actually always seems to use his old storylines to bring him into new storylines. I always think that's genius.
Yeah, for sure. You tagged us in that tweet a little bit ago, and I love that shout there for the potential, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller match turn. That'd be nice. But yeah, Javon Evans, you could tell that NXT has a plan for him. He is super young. He doesn't need to be shotgunned into a major title scene quite yet, but this is the perfect spot for him to be at. Just an emotional blood feud with Ethan Page. I think he's done a great job at being the babyface in this situation. We know what Ethan Page is capable of doing. We've seen him knock Javon Evans out for a couple of weeks. This is going to be a physical matchup, and that's why it was the match I was most looking forward to seeing on this Saturday at Vengeance Day. But I think Javon Evans has to get some kind of retribution here. He needs a defining moment in NXT to be like, okay, this guy could be an NXT champion very soon, because I do believe there is a chance that either Ethan Page is going to head to the main roster soon, or a guy like Josh Alexander might make his way over to NXT and they reunite the North to take on Fraxiom. I know Steve has seen that tweet before. That's something I'm trying to manifest into happening. So with that thought, I think Javon Evans gets his revenge, gets a win over Ethan Page here at Vengeance Day, but it's going to be a brutal matchup, and I'm excited for it.
Exciting stuff there. Next, Steve.
Yeah, this is we're going to do batshit crazy stuff throughout this match, but the fact it's unsanctioned means that technically Ethan Page doesn't suffer with a loss, so sure, it's not officially on the record book. So this one is kind of the easiest one because you know that Javon Evans is out for revenge, and yeah, dude, it's going to be so much fun. And I'm the same as Carl. I think that if Ethan Page isn't called up to the main event, because he's been main event ready ever since he made his debut, then hopefully, like I said, Josh Alexander maybe comes over. In terms of Javon Evans, though, the ultimate worry I had with him was that when he was kind of sort of thrusted into the main event scene, it was kind of like how Von Wagner was thrown in. It was kind of like this random guy just appears and automatically he's fighting for world titles. And it was like I had the same with Javon Evans, and I was kind of hoping that it doesn't go the same way. But the guy has do you know what I mean, a high flyer skill set, which everyone tends to love, so he gets himself over really easy. They've done a great build in making him like the sympathetic character. Do you know what I mean? The Bloodshots, I think, were a bit corny, if anything. Like, I think the way they produced it looked like the worst sort of film, like, do you know what I mean, fake blood kind of thing. I think they could have done it better, but that's my only real issue with it. I think otherwise, Javon Evans has done a great deal in building himself up, and yeah, I mean, come post Stand and Deliver, I think he's going to be one of them guys that will be in or around the main event scene.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, for me, I'm going to go for Javon Evans here. As I said, I love Sean booking his own storylines, but this one's been done even better, in my personal opinion. Taking what he'd done in the 90s where he'd lost his smile, Ethan Page had done that, but actually Ethan Page found his smile back by taking away someone else's. Just thought that was very well put together and very well done. And Javon has sold it so well over the last 2 to 3 months. And I'm looking forward to the match here. It feels really personal. It feels like this one could almost be as much an angle as it is a match. And I think that's what makes this even more interesting. Could be one of the matches of the night. But yeah, I want to go for Ethan Page to win, but I think, like you guys have said, Javon Evans here needs this. I think of the two even more here. And like you say, Ethan Page, there's nothing taken away from him from the loss. So it does make sense that Javon Evans picks up the dub here.
I'm trying to think. Yeah. What is the biggest win in Javon Evans' NXT run so far, do we think? Wesley? Or because he never beat Trick, right? Or Randy Orton he lost to. So it might be Wesley. And this would probably be the most defining win because Ethan Page is a former NXT champion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I wouldn't have a clue, unfortunately. My brain is like a sieve when it comes to remembering wrestling matches. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Like, he's had good matches, but like he hasn't beaten anybody big yet. And I know he's only 20 or 21, but he needs a win.
He needs a win, absolutely. Yeah, I think he's Sean Spears, but then that's who hasn't?
I like what Sean Spears is doing, though. Hey, you can hate all you want. I think that ending to NXT this week was really strong.
It was really strong. I like Sean Spears. I've always liked Sean Spears, but he usually gives them away, doesn't he? He doesn't mind laying down for people. But anyway, we'll move on in the meantime. Keep your predictions coming, ladies and gents. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. But in the meantime, we're going to move on to the NXT Tag Team Championships for us next now. Fraxiom are going to be in action. They will be going against Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Easy for me to say. Gentlemen, this match has been brewing for a while. Pretty much Briggs has been calling for this for about 2 or 3 months, but Fraxiom has said every time, well, you guys want the title match, but you don't wrestle. You don't prove yourselves. Well, they had a freeway this past week on NXT, and they picked up the victory. And to be fair, the finish looked pretty awesome from Inamura doing his smash off the top rope. So the Ultimate Warrior moment it felt for you, NXT, for he was shaking the ropes a lot before jumping off. How do you feel, NXT, for this one? Do you reckon there's a chance we can get new tag team champions?
I have the worst feeling in the world that this is the match that Fraxiom could lose in tag team titles, and it's really bad because, like, for the amount of talent and quality and matches that they've had against all this, and they're randomly, I've got a bad feeling they're going to randomly lose to a thrown together tag team, and this could be the deal because I don't know if you've seen the TNA highlight that they had them interact with the Hardys, both standing there with tag team gold, and they're on about, one day they'll face each other. They're not going to face each other while they've got both got tag team gold. So someone's got to lose the title somewhere. And it would be just an NXT thing to have Fraxiom lose to this random tag team that just doesn't make sense.
Makes sense. Kyle?
You make so much sense that you're going to convince me to go with another team here. But, I still am not sold currently on the NXT tag division. And that's why I love the involvement of TNA, because I think they need TNA's tag team division to kind of elevate everybody else in NXT currently, because there's Fraxiom and then there's everybody else. And right now, Briggs and company, that's everybody else. They're all just floating, in my opinion. They haven't done a great job in making them feel like legitimate contenders. But like NXT said, this is the time that they would zag when we expect them to zig. They're going to throw us a curveball somewhere. We've talked about it. This would make the most sense. But, man, I something's telling me that Fraxiom is going to hold this thing until Stand and Deliver. You have them lose Stand and Deliver weekend, and then they go off to maybe the main roster. I'm not sure because, once again, the main roster tag division is starting to heat up now too, and that's becoming a little bit crowded, so who knows if they even fit there right now. All that being said, I'm going with Fraxiom to retain here, Steve.
Honestly, guys, I see both arguments here because I have said to myself that when Fraxiom lose the titles, it will be to Briggs and Inamura, and a bit of me feels like it shouldn't be this show because I do agree with you that Stand and Delivers the right. It feels like that's the right place that they should drop these titles. So I'm going to propose this. I think Fraxiom are going to again retain the titles by the skin of their teeth on this show, but I think Briggs is going to come out and say that we could have won that. We had your number. They have to prove themselves to get into Stand and Deliver, and I think they repeat this match in a few weeks' time. And I think Briggs and Inamura are going to win those NXT Tag Team Championships. I think they'll be the next champions, but I think Fraxiom are just going to edge it here.
I'm gonna. Do you know what? We've gone pretty much the same all night. I'm gonna go against it. I'm gonna say Briggs in Inamura because I've just got that feeling, man. The amount of times we've sat there and gone, I think Fraxiom will lose this time. And it just got to the point. It's like Roman Reigns. It was like Roman Reigns is going to lose this time. He's not going to keep winning. And we're getting to that point now. And this team honestly just feels like the team that they'll pull the trigger on. As much as I'm trying to fulfill and wishing Hank and Tank to get to that main event tag team scene and be tag team champions, they're doing nothing at the minute. And it's like, I think it almost is, I don't know, like I think it's, if you have them go all the way to Stand and Deliver and lose them titles, it almost is not as expected for them to win at Stand and Deliver. And I think if you have them lose here, it's a bigger shock. It's a bigger, do you know what I mean? It's a bigger news story. And I think that if their story goes on, that they try and win them back at Stand and Deliver, or even in a couple of weeks, and they bow out at Stand and Deliver in trying to reclaim that tag team gold.
There's a lot to be had on the chase, I think, if Fraxiom were to lose. Yeah. That whole story for 2 months, like you said, that would be money for sure. That makes sense.
It does. It really does. I'm intrigued to see it. To be honest, I'm actually invested in this match a lot on this Vengeance Day show, just because it's the match I'm least confident on a prediction on.
Yeah, 50-50 in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I think the thing I love the most is that these guys were just randomly thrown together. They have a crap name, which is just an amalgamation of their two names together, but they've become the best tag team in WWE because of their run as NXT tag team champions, and I think it's great. And hopefully, when they go up to the main roster, that they keep them together and they can like carry this on for another year or 2 years before we then decide to split them up. Because I think if you took these guys up and split them straight away, it'd be criminal. Because they're so good as a tag team at the minute.
Even a hotter take: best tag team in professional wrestling. Fraxiom.
Oh, that I didn't want to go that far, but it is a fair shout.
Bring me the heat, guys. Too Sweet Kyle on X. Let's go.
I'll be there defending. Honestly, I think they are the best. I think they were the best tag team of 2024. I think so far they've
won the OTM for it, so that proves it right there and then.
Yeah. They sweeped in our categories, so I think it has to be the one. But who will get the full sweep in our final prediction then? Because we need to do the NXT Women's Championship. It's now a fatal four-way, no longer a triple threat. We've got Giulia defending against Bayley, against Roxanne, Perez, and Cora, Jade. I'm fascinated by this match. We mentioned the different generations of NXT. Obviously, Giulia versus Bayley feels like a dream match in itself. Bayley versus Roxanne Perez is the feud that they're seemingly building. Perez and Cora Jade, that's the friendship that's seemingly on off. It's it's worse than an episode of Love Island, to be honest. I mean, where to begin with this one? Honestly, obviously. Let's take Giulia out of the picture in a minute, because I feel like, and this is not meant horribly, but I feel the NXT Women's Championship is the least important part about this match. I feel all the inner rivalries that's going on in amongst it is what's going to be interesting, because Roxanne Perez has got a chance to be in the Elimination Chamber with Bayley as well. Right. So it kind of makes you think that actually maybe long term for two of these people, NXT is not going to be the scene, if that makes any sense. Kyle, do you agree with me?
I do agree with you, and I think there's a case to be made for Bayley and Roxanne to win back that title and take it to the Elimination Chamber and get that exposure with the NXT title in the chamber. And that's what makes this match very interesting, in my opinion, is because you can make a strong case for every single woman in this matchup. I think Bayley's the most intriguing one. For Bayley to regain that NXT championship, it would probably be similar vibes to when we saw Becky Lynch just recently come down and have a couple good showings with up-and-coming talent. They could do the same thing with Bayley here. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve?
I mean, for me, I've said it before, I think ultimately the goal is meant to be Roxanne Perez versus Bayley, whether that's on the WrestleMania card or Stand and Deliver. I think this is ideally there to keep Bayley busy, because she can't get into the title scenes on either rosters, unfortunately. I think this is actually probably more for Stand and Deliver than anything, because I think it will be high-profile name, up-and-comer, and I think it's more for that. I mean, it's very rare you can turn around and say that the NXT champion is the fourth wheel. Do you know what I mean as well? And I think that's important as well. And then, as well, what happens with Cora Jade? We said before, Steve, that if this is an important time for Cora Jade because she has to stay fit, she has to stay healthy, and these next couple of months are going to be a real big test for her because I don't know at this minute whether she's destined to come up after WrestleMania as one of the NXT call-ups. She could do because she's got character, she's got skill. It's just the health and fitness stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't expect Giulia to lose this match. I'm going to spoil it there and give my prediction and say Giulia retains because it's too short into Giulia's reign to be losing this. But this one obviously has the option that you've got 4 legitimate stars that could all win this match, and it's kind of normally when we get a fatal 4-way or a 5-way or whatever, there's normally 1 or 2 where we're like, nah, you've got no real choice, like there's 1 or 2 that you just like, no, got no chance. But with this one, I could genuinely see any one of them walking away. But I think Bayley and Roxanne Perez almost cancel themselves out, and I think that it's going to be Bayley versus Roxanne Perez at Stand and Deliver or WrestleMania, and it's going to be Giulia versus Cora Jade at Stand and Deliver.
I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. Roxanne Perez recently said the sentence of Cora Jade would never wear the NXT Women's Championship, and in the last minute, she's been added to this match thanks to Roxanne Perez doing cosplay as Hugger Bayley, and she almost didn't see it coming that she would be added to this match. Is there a slim chance, because the champion doesn't need to be pinned here, that Cora Jade could get the job done without Giulia being involved in the decision?
There's a chance. There's always a chance. The thing I'm disappointed, though, with the Cora Jade and the Roxanne dynamic is I think they are so fun together. I think they work perfectly. They're a match made in heaven, and we really haven't got the chance to see it for an extended period of time because they want to break them up every single time. But there definitely is a chance that Cora Jade could walk out as NXT champion. I think she's ready for it.
I think she'd be ready as well. My initial thought when I first said she was going to be added to this match was that, well, someone needs to take the pinfall. That was my initial thought. But the more I think about it, I feel like she could walk away with the title. I don't know why. I have a feeling that she's higher in the betting odds for me than Bayley and Roxanne at this point. But NXT, if you're sticking with Giulia to retain here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, new champion. She's not had many defenses. I think overcoming 2 of the best NXT stars and a big, massive main roster star as well sets her up perfectly. And like I said, if Cora Jade doesn't take the pinfall in this match, she's got an excuse to challenge for a rematch at Stand and Deliver.
Absolutely. Kyle?
I'm going with Giulia as well, even though I do like what you're saying about Cora Jade. I'm starting to be convinced that she could potentially win this. It'd be cool if Bayley did it, like I said earlier, but it ain't going to happen. So I'm going to go with Giulia to retain in this one.
I will say Giulia to retain.
Do it.
I think the Roxanne Perez is getting pinned. I think Cora Jade will have the match won and Perez stops it from happening. I think that's what can lead to. Yeah, so we can get Giulia versus Cora Jade, which I don't will predict for Stand and Deliver. Instead, I'll predict it for Madison Square Garden Roadblock instead.
I forgot about that.
Fair enough.
Oh, gotta have a match for that.
Maybe in the theaters as well. I'd still want to go. Let's go into the comments in the meantime, see what everyone's got to say. Sid is saying that I think Giulia will retain. Seems like the popular decision. We've got as well Mr. Sims UK. Cora Jade will be getting a TNA Knockouts title match. That's true. That is very true. Maybe she could win that title. That could be quite fun.
I forgot about that. Doesn't she have that coming up here next week?
Possibly. I'm a bit off on the TNA timeline at the moment, but that would probably make sense. Whereas we're in February, so yeah, I do think I should surrender.
The question with TNA is, when will someone from the other brand win the other brand's championships? When is the WWE star going to win a TNA title? When's the TNA star going to win an NXT title? Do you know what I mean? That's the important one. I mean, whether they do it with something like the tag team titles, because it's something small, whether they do it with a world championship title, like a women's championship, like Cora Jade beating Masha Slamovich, who knows? But at the minute, unless I'm getting a real vibe that someone can win this title, I don't personally see Cora Jade beating Masha Slamovich for that title.
No, not presently.
It would be cool though.
It would be.
You would get a big buzz from that because we all are enjoying, I think, the partnership between TNA and NXT, but they haven't really had a huge moment yet, like you were talking about NXT, and that could be it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sid has thrown out the question. I would not have asked this question, but as he's thrown out a question that TNA and NXT, someone has said that TNA is better than NXT. He feels the same. Do you prefer TNA or NXT at present? NXT, I'll quickly go around to you first.
I think because I'm a consistent viewer of NXT and not TNA, I'm going to be a bit biased and say NXT. If I watched it every week, I'd be able to give you more of a fair assessment, but otherwise I enjoy NXT more at the minute.
Same. You can't ask me this question because I don't even watch TNA, so I can't give you a fair answer. I would say NXT is better.
I watch NXT more consistently, but I am more excited to learn what happens on NXT before I find out what happens on TNA. I think to even sum it up, I still have not had the chance to watch Genesis. That tells you everything.
It was good. It was worth it. I watched it at least.
It was.
I still will get around to it, but just time, life, all the rest of it. So yeah, NXT is better.
You're a dad. You're busy. I get it. I got a co-host that's a dad. I don't know about that life, but good for you.
It's busy. It can be busy. Yeah. But I tell you what also is going to be busy. Sometimes kids keep you awake at night, but certainly you're learning who could be in the new mystery faction can keep you awake at night as well. Gentlemen, we've had a picture that's come up. And these 4 people are expected to debut at Vengeance Day. It's come up with like a flicker of Vengeance Day each time they've come up. This is the silhouettes of the 4 gentlemen. Kyle, I'm going to go to you first because, to be honest, I don't feel like I recognize anybody in those silhouettes.
No, I don't recognize anybody either. And I'm one of those people that doesn't really speculate when it comes to these things when there's vignettes and stuff. I let everybody else do the deep diving because I don't have the time to even think about it. So I couldn't give you one logical guess on who is who. I would assume they're probably just NIL people or ID kind of talent, but I'm excited for it because it's a new faction. It's something different that we haven't really seen in NXT recently. So, but I got nothing for you in terms of speculation on who could be in this faction.
Neither do I. But I saw the mask this week, kind of looked interesting. I mean, you mentioned the Shield off air. Potentially some people suggesting, which you've seen on X that way. I had more of a fear that I was seeing Retribution again. But NXT, your thoughts potentially of this new mystery faction?
I am not getting my hopes up just because we have a track record of new factions debuting and not doing very well. And just to go back to Diamond Mine, for instance, when Diamond Mine first made their debut, and we was like, oh, there's all this hype about Diamond Mine, and it turned out to be a pile of toot. And then, we obviously the famous one, Retribution, that, had all this massive hype, and it's like, and if you've got 4 guys coming in, and no one knows who any of them are. Like, you haven't even got one big name in there. Could be wrong by Tuesday. There could be a 5th person who's like a big deal, big name, like a big main event superstar that's going to be in control of this faction. But for 4 guys that are unknown, I'm kind of not getting my hopes up. Like, I could be very wrong, and this could turn out to be the next Undisputed Era. Like, and they could go around and dominate NXT for the next 2 years, and it'd be great. But just quietly reserved at the minute because they say they have a track record, and I think there's a stigma that they have to break with new factions.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's learning what the message is that they're trying to deliver and what they are looking to gain out of this. And yeah, I mean, once we start getting an idea of what it can all be about, then we can perhaps maybe, I don't know, buy into it a little bit more. But we'll see if they shock the system or they don't.
The important part is what part of the show they debut in, because if they're just going to be sitting in the crowd, it's going to be really underwhelming. And it's kind of like, where do they make their name? Main event, like title match with Femi, tag titles with Fraxiom, like North America. No, they kind of like Trick Willams, and there's like in the strap match. Who knows? Like maybe this is Eddie Thorpe's new direction. Eddie Thorpe is faction leader. Who knows? But that's the other thing, is kind of like you don't know where they're going to pop in, because we've got 4 unknown guys who have got no real claim to be in any of the scenes at the minute.
I like the question of where do they fit in on this show, because obviously Obafemi has 2 main roster guys. So if they want to go straight in at the top and take over the show, not we've seen factions do that before, but you could go for the top dog straight away. There's Trick Willams. If, say, for example, Eddie Thorpe was a leader of this, I actually like the idea of Eddie Thorpe being a leader of it.
No, I don't need that in my life, Steve. I don't need Eddie Thorpe the leader because I'm not following that leader. I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
You've already sold him a duddiest.
Anybody else? Bring back Von Wagner to lead the boys. I don't care. We can call the faction come Tuesday, and then we'll call it a night.
Oh, I want to see that now.
Dear.
I really want to see that.
Me too. I want to see the merch that comes in it.
So do I. That would be interesting. So yeah, I mean,
knowing NXT, it'll be Robert Stone that's in charge because that's all he ever seems to do is just manage factions that do badly.
Do promo videos. That's about it.
Yeah,
I need that gig. We need that gig. How do we sign up for that? It's great.
Exactly.
it would be good. Would be good. Well, there's not much more to add really on the new faction at this present time, but it's going to be 4 dudes you've probably not seen before. Maybe one of them you've seen before, but it'll be about it really at this particular time.
They've all been, half of them have probably been on Level Up, and no one ever watches Level Up, so we ain't got a clue who they are anyway.
I think
if you've watched Level Up, yeah, if you've watched Level Up, you probably know who they are, but if not, then you probably don't. Bobby's in the house, by the way, and said wrestlers that on Level Up before. Yeah, it seems that could be the case. Alyssa's in the house. Thank you, Alyssa, for joining us. Do you think that Cora Jade needs a character change?
No, she's a mean girl, and I think she plays the mean girl well. That's just me.
I think either one or the other between Roxanne, Perez, and Cora Jade needs to change, like by WrestleMania, like after WrestleMania. Either one will do fine but I think I'm enjoying both of them as their heel at the minute, and I'm quite content with how they are and how they're presented.
I prefer Cora Jade at the moment because when she was initially the mean girl change, it was like she was like, I don't know, it came across like
forced.
Yeah, a little bit forced, and it was like, I don't know if you remember the movie Mean Girls back in the day.
Yeah,
it's not really Regina George. Do you know what I mean? It didn't really come across that deep with it. So I just felt myself. She's like rock kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean? Metal, and it's just I don't know, like the imagery of the two doesn't connect. So I prefer now that she's someone with attitude now, and I'm preferring that.
Well, the babyface wasn't working because she didn't even know how to skate. So you can't give somebody a skating gimmick that doesn't know how to skate. I've seen her work. She was known as Elena Black here in the Midwest independent scene. And she kind of was like a witchy character she brought out like a chest or something. I don't know what you call it. I'm not into witchcraft and all that. But that first babyface gimmick definitely was not it. So this is at least something.
Absolutely. So potentially, yes, she may or may not need it, is the answer from the three of us. Austin Theory, quick ring around the table. Carl, we'll start with you. Does he need a gimmick change?
Face. He needs a face turn. Yep.
Steve?
I mean, dude, I always say put him back with put him back to goofy Austin Theory because he's so much fun.
I liked his selfies days. I know a lot of people hated the selfie days, but I actually quite like the selfie days, to be honest.
Me too.
Give him back his phone.
Yeah. Let's do it. Just don't bring back Vince.
Yeah, don't bring back Vince. That was the thing that let that down.
That was the most infamous selfie, probably.
Probably of the lot of them, yeah. Right, we have there we go. I'm trying to get rid of that comment then. Right, before we leave off today, because we've done everything that we would do for NXT Vengeance Day, but we are going to discuss a debut that took place on NXT and give our reaction. One, Mr. Ricky Starks coming through the crowd and pretty much saying, "You all know who I am. You wondered when the revolution was going to be televised once again. Well, I'm here, aren't I?" WWE have said he's here. On social media, they've said he's here, but have not named him by name. First off, though, before we discuss if he's going to be Ricky Starks or not, the initial reaction of seeing him in NXT, because it was only announced of being off the AEW roster page about 24 hours before making his NXT debut. NXT, your thoughts of Ricky Starks in NXT?
I am both loving it and hating it for specific reasons. I love it because it's a case of literally, like you said, less than, I think it was like 36 hours, I think was the terminology. But between him leaving AEW, he's debuting in NXT, and I think that's great. My problem is the reaction he got to a half-assed PC crowd, and I think if they'd have done it at the weekend at Vengeance Day, the pop would have been bigger. And I think that's my biggest problem is like everyone loves him, but there's a guy in the segment who's just sitting down and honestly doesn't care that it's Ricky Starks. And I'm like, and he's like 4 foot away from Ricky Starks, and I'm like, this has been done so wrong because you've got the wrong reaction from certain people because Performance Center crowd is Performance Center crowd, but if you've got an arena full of people who know who Ricky Starks is, this would have gone over so much better at Vengeance Day. But, like I said, the fact that it's a short period of time and it's the next day, absolutely love it, man.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, to go off what NXT Steve is saying, that's why I like that NXT has started to travel and do shows elsewhere in bigger venues, because it seems like, the crowd that they typically are filming in front of has off nights, and last night was definitely an off night for them. And in my personal experience, I've been to plenty of WWE events over the past 5 years. Majority of the people that are paying money to go to WWE events are WWE fans only. They are casuals, as I like to call them. So it's not that surprising that Ricky got kind of a subdued reaction, but going off of all that, it's the fact that he showed up, like you said, in less than 48 hours from being released and let go from his AEW contract is crazy in itself, because usually they'll give you some time to breathe. No, the food wasn't even getting cooled off out of the microwave here. It was still hot off the press. Ricky Starks in NXT, which I think is a brilliant starting point for him. I think if he goes to the main roster, he gets lost into the shuffle right away. NXT, we've talked about it tonight, he needs a lot of star power, specifically in the men's division. Ricky Starks immediately adds star power to that men's division, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the Black and Gold brand.
I love that you've just said that.
I was going to say, the reason they said they've put him on NXT is because Mania's basically set, and for that reason exactly is why they've put him on NXT. And it makes total sense, man.
100%.
The name thing, I think this is... Again, I'm loving it and hating it because the guy has an established name, which you should be playing off of. Like, you've had Penta come in, you've had Ethan Page come in, all have brought their name over. Why doesn't Ricky Starks get that name? And, like, I know obviously it's kind of like, I don't know if you want to separate him from his AEW run by giving him a new name, but he has an established name.
Maybe he wants a fresh start. Maybe it could be him. It can be WWE as well. We don't know the legit. He may still be Ricky Starks. We don't know. They might be just teasing us at this point, because I think that's something that everyone's just reacted by seeing he, and they're like, well, hang on, they've not said Ricky. They've not said Starks. What are you doing? Are you going to take the name away? And we may be all massively overreacting. But the thing I really liked that was said a minute ago was the fact of, adding stock to the men's division in NXT, because he adds that in so many leaps and bounds, because who fills the shoes of Trick Willams when he goes to probably Raw or SmackDown after the next WWE draft, which is after WrestleMania? Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks fits in there, but Eddie Thorpe could be the guy that he could be feuding with Ricky Starks, maybe at Stand and Deliver, or maybe afterwards. But yeah, at the same time, it'll be interesting to see what's going to go down. But yeah, the absolute one is certainly there, and I think he's going to be taking names in NXT. And I agree with Kyle saying that this particular Raw and SmackDown, I don't know exactly where he fits in at this point. Of course, he can fit in the mid-card scene. He can have his way promo TV time, but I think he's going to feel like a bigger deal in the short term in WWE in NXT to start off with, because even if it's a hot run for like 6 months with the NXT Championship or North American Championship, he builds name in the value under the WWE brand, because like you said, not everybody is hardcore, knows what's going on in AEW, TNA, elsewhere. They know WWE. So if they're following NXT and they go, well, this guy's come in, this guy's got charisma, personality, he's winning matches, winning titles, all of a sudden they put stock into the name, whatever that name's going to be, NXT.
Yeah, great. No, I know what you mean. It's just, I can't, it just irritates me, because it's like you let some of them do it and then you let some of them not do it. And it's kind of like you should have one rule for all instead of one rule for some. And like I said, he has I know his name is trademarked and it's owned by him, but like, Dude, I just looked up the list of names that they've trademarked 2 days ago, and you tell me that any of these sound better than Ricky Starks. You've got well, apart from Trill London, because it's also the coolest name ever, but like Osiris Griffin, Hayes Jameson, Trill London, Harley Riggins, Summer Sorrell, Jax Priestley, Mason Holiday. That sounds terrible in itself. Draco Knox, Tate Wilder, Braxton Cole, Chantel Monroe, or Araya Bennett. They're the most. Someone say they're the most they're the most AI generated names you can get for a pro wrestler. They're horrible, man. Where's the Ultimate Warrior? Where's Papa Shango, man?
Repo Man. Yeah, I don't know.
Repo Man.
I don't know. Look, Ricky Starks would work for me. Maybe they might go with something else. I don't know, but maybe time will tell with the name, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, and there's one thing I'd like to add about this Ricky Starks situation is that I have seen people saying that they are worried about where Ricky Starks could fit in the WWE. I mean, look at the past examples of people that have come from AEW on over to NXT. I think of Lexis King. Now, granted, Lexis King hasn't won a lot. He doesn't have the accolades that some do, but he's a heavily featured guy every single week on television. He wasn't doing that in AEW. He was a part of the Varsity Blondes wrestling on AEW Dark every other week. Ricky Starks, they kept him caged up forever in AEW, didn't let him free. We knew he was eventually going to come to WWE. Look at Ethan Page. Ethan Page came right into NXT, became a major champion. Ricky Starks is at that same level, in my opinion, as an Ethan Page. I could easily see Ricky Starks coming in and then within a month or two becoming champion. Because like we said, there's not a lot of other big names that stack up to Ricky Starks right now in NXT. So I wouldn't doubt, Ricky in NXT. I think he's going to succeed tremendously.
Got to agree with a lot of that there.
He's already, from the 2 minutes he's been on screen, he's automatically one of the biggest stars in NXT at the minute. Like, he's already up there. All you've got to do is give him a microphone and the guy will deliver. He's just one guy that all he's got to do, put him on a microphone and he will put bums in seats, as they say.
Absolutely. And what role he play in NXT, it's going to be very exciting to see. Will he have a presence at Vengeance Day? Is another question I will ask you, gentlemen. NXT, I'll start with you.
I hope so. If anything, that will probably when we find out his name, whether he's going to be a sit in the crowd kind of guy, or again, hopefully he might get another promo segment, but they'll actually have a title card underneath him with his name, Trill London.
Yeah, we'll have to see what will happen with that. Would be quite interesting. Bobby has got into the comments and said to us it's nice to see Ricky Starks on NXT. Certainly agree with that one. Who would we like to see him go against in WWE? Any dream matches you've got? You don't have to include NXT in this one.
Oh, God. I mean, obviously, I want to see him go up against Cody Rhodes at some point because I think that would be great. Dude, put him against Chad Gable. Chad Gable is like my favourite guy that can wrestle anyone at the minute. And the fact that, I know we spoke about, I texted you about the other day, and the fact that he may be going to AAA for a while, I think is great. Like, he's going to go conquer his fear of Lucha Libre wrestlers in Mexico. I think is fantastic. But yeah, give me Chad Gable versus Ricky Starks as one of his first feuds if he comes up to the main roster.
I love it. For me, CM Punk finish the story would be one I'd like to personally see. Kyle, any matches you would like to see Ricky Starks have in WWE?
Let's just throw him against The Rock, because he gets compared to The Rock all the time. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. I'm losing my voice. I haven't been healthy recently, so yeah, I'm losing my voice now.
Sorry, dude. We will not keep you for too much longer, but Bobby suggesting Ricky Starks versus Carmelo Hayes would be nice. That actually sounds really nice indeed. For NXT matches, obviously Trick Williams and Oba Femi would be awesome to see as well. Wesley, that'd be another great one. Yeah, some great matches there. Would you like to see Rusev return to WWE? I'm going to throw Aleister Black in that lineup as well.
Yes.
I'm going to say no for Rusev because I honestly don't know where he fits in. And that's my biggest worry with Rusev. Like, there's so many guys that are kind of the same as him. Like, they lost the momentum when they didn't do Rusev Day, and I wouldn't want him to come back and kind of be like how Andrade's been for the last 6 months, years. Just kind of just like he's just appeared and done several matches. I'd want him to come back and do something big. If they can find something for him creatively, yes, but that's my only worry about him. But as to Black, definitely that guy has got unfinished business in WWE. Someone's finally going to knock on that guy's door.
I was gonna bring up Aleister Black too, and just like lump all these guys together into one answer. We've heard the rumors, going around that they are trying to position NXT as the definitive third brand, like an equal to Raw and SmackDown. Throw Rusev and Malachi Black into NXT. I'm okay with that, at least for a year.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would not be against it either.
To be fair, Aleister Black was robbed of a lot of main events when he was champion, because that was at the time when they were doing Ciampa Gargano, and every pay-per-view would be main evented by them two, and Black would always be match before as NXT champion. So he was almost robbed, really. So I could see him going back there. I just think with Zelina Vega going SmackDown, he's going SmackDown.
Yeah,
I
would say
the one Malachi Black match that I saw for the NXT Championship. It was against Lars Sullivan. Yeah, and it was not the main event. To go off your point,
that's what I'm saying. You missed the good ones against like Andrade that he had, and they were absolute killers.
Yeah,
absolutely indeed. Well, we think Ricky Starks has got a bright future in NXT, possibly WWE as well. We're excited to see what the future holds. Let us know your reaction in the comments below. And also, for those who have watched for the full Vengeance Day predictions as well, let us know your predictions in the comments below. But this is the time we're going to wrap up the video here today. First off, I want to say a massive thank you to Sweet Kyle from On The Mark Wrestling Podcast for joining us. Let us know where we can find you on the socials and on YouTube, please.
Yeah, let's hope I can get this all out before I lose my voice again. At Pot on the Mark on all of the socials, guys. I appreciate the support that your channel has given us throughout the years. It's always great to collaborate, and once again, great to finally collaborate with NXT. I'm sure we'll do this again, but we are live every single Thursday, usually at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. That time changes from time to time because Tuck is a dad. He's also a baseball coach. He has a lot going on. So if you're following us at Pot on the Mark, like I said, on all the socials, you'll keep up to date with everything. So that's where you'll find us.
Absolutely indeed there. And Nick, Steve, great to have you on board as always as well. And thank you for going through another predictions video with us here on SCW.
Dude, always a pleasure. And again, to finally do one with Carl is always great as well. I hope to look forward to doing more in the future as well. But yeah, man, dude, look forward to doing the next lot. And like, if we do end up doing a review of Vengeance Day, so we'll see, man. But yeah, I always look forward to being here, man.
Absolutely. It's always great to have you both on board, and it's been great to do a show with both of you as well, and look forward to the next one also. Massive thanks as well to the chat who have all been involved and getting involved nicely with your questions, your comments, and kind words as well. Make sure to do a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already. Really supports the channel, and drop a comment after this video has gone off. Again, it's that thing of helping the algorithm. Could be anything. Could ask a question we've not answered, could be a prediction, something about Vengeance Day, something about Ricky Starks, just anything in the comment section.
Nothing about Eddy Thorpe, though. Nothing about Eddy.
No, we might not answer that. We probably will. But let's know who you think's in the faction.
Favorite wrestler.
Yeah, let's know who you think's in the faction. That's probably a fun one to go with. Who from Level Up is going to be in the faction? But thanks for watching. Look after yourselves and each other.
Wrong answers only.
Yeah, wrong answers only. We'll see you for the next one. All the best. Enjoy Vengeance Day.